Okay, it's been, I think, a couple weeks since the last video. I've been working on the skill system, and it's been probably the most involved thing. I mean, I did that guy's tutorial, Code Monkey, and that took like months, on and off. But this basically coming up with the system and implementing it and doing it all and just like making it all up on my own. It's not done, but I think I got most of the hard parts. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll show you where it's at now. Okay, seeing all that. Alright, so this is the skill builder over here, skill builder. That's what I'm calling it anyway. So I went ahead and put 2 base skills on the character already. They're down here, new reel, new yank. And then down here you can see all the different base skills as of right now that I want to implement. So you have each of these skills. I want to set it up so you can drag and drop them into the skill bar down here, but none of this is functional down here. Pretty much only been doing what you'll see here in this window and in this window. So you have 2 different types of skills. Each of those will have I went ahead and did scriptable objects for each because I want each skill is going to have a different use skill. So I thought that was going to be the best way that I could think of to do it. But yeah, each of these skills will have their own use. When I get into that, if I see a lot of overlaps, maybe stamina costs and whatever, maybe I can put some of that into the player skill. But so you have these skills, and then each of these skills, I'll go ahead and I'll be on, I'm on real base over here. So, and I've been using Odin Inspector a lot more, so this all looks a lot nicer, a lot easier to deal with. So your skill has base values, right? So for your reel, it's going to be like your power reel. It's going to increase your reel speed, and I've just given it a base value. None of these are fine-tuned or anything. I'm just plugging stuff in, but it's going to increase your reel speed by, just 20%. But it's 120 here, and then it's going to cost 10 stamina costs per second. And you can choose, right, the drop-down menu, and I can add another right here. So if I wanted it to have a cooldown or a mana cost or whatever, I would just choose mana cost, set a base value, and then that's the base value of the skill. That's the flat base value. So this costs 10 mana per second, or 10 stamina per second. And then when you level up and you get skill points, instead of just leveling up just the real skill, you have these options to level up. So you can level up power, or which over here you can see, I don't have the tooltips yet, but for each point in power, it's going to increase the real speed. So 120 is going to increase it by 5 additively %, and that value diminishes, has a diminishing rate, and that I tried to implement, but it's not perfect, but it does diminish over time. So each point will be a 0.25% less effective, and when you increase this also, right, still just this power thing, it's going to increase the stamina cost per second by 5, and that's again percent additive, and I can change that to flat or multiplicative. I'm just reusing an enum that I had already for other attributes, and I actually skill attribute, I actually set up the skill attribute class in very similar to the player attribute class. Just this is just for skills, and it'll have its own enums and its own skill properties list and all that. So So each of the skills over here has different skill properties. So those are all prefabs that I instantiate and set. And I also found out this cool thing down here, description. So real speed, if I just displayed the enum as this, it would just be one word, real speed. But you can see over here, real speed is displayed as 2 words. And I'm using description, and I'm using I don't know if I can find that really quickly, but oh, that's in skill system scripts. So utility functions. So some Googling, people had the same issue. I put this in my utility functions method, but this is the get description. So I can pass in, I can call it enum, and I can say get description, and that's going to return a string. And it's just some logic I copied pasted from online somewhere, but because I give the attribute a description tag here, and that's using system.componentModel, I can now use that description as text displayed, and that was a nice way to get things to display without doing a big string builder and all that. So that was a pretty simple and easy way to do, and this will work for any enum class that I have. I can just add a description to it, and instead of saying enum.toString, I pass the enum, and I do like if I need the text value, I just do enum.getDescription. So skill attributes, if I want to add more, right? So I'm going to add like buffs. It can give you strength and stuff, so I'll have to have strength increase and different things down here, like magic, and if I want to reduce fish movement or whatever, that'll all be down in here, and then I'll have to go through and update this as well, which isn't great. I would still like to have a better way to do this, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I just have to add the enum, add the property, and then add the property down to the list here, and then I pass those around. So when I increase it, you can see the value goes up, and the diminishing takes effect pretty much right away. My allocated points go up. Available is non-functional because I don't have skill points yet, but you can see you can keep increasing it, and the diminishing gets a little wonky past a certain point, or maybe it just caps out right there, but that's something I can play with. So you can see my stamina cost is up to 20, but when I increase the reduce costs over here, all it's doing is reducing the value by 5%. So that's offsetting, all of this stuff over here. So if I go all the way up to, I should have done 52, but 52, 52, now it's at base value. So that's the plan for skills. And then all I have to do is, when I create a skill base type, I go in here and I set all the properties to it, and now I have these values here, and I should be able to pass those around and however I want. So on top of that, a little customizable skill system here, and basic option. So these are the basic options, and then I'll have more interesting effects down here, like for example on your reel, maybe a property, to, like, the longer you hold the reel button, the stronger it gets, or it does something to the fish, like adds a slow to them, or things like that. But I can do different stuff, and then I have just these base skill types. So say for example you want a reel that costs a lot, right? So it costs a lot but it's really strong, and you've allocated 68 points. But say you want another reel, so let's call this, oops, that's not going to save too. For some reason my input things are not working. Oh, because I'm pressing Shift R and that reloads. Okay. Reel 2, that's what it is. So reel 2. So I'm creating a new skill now, and I have my base types, physical, magic, or buff. So if I want to do physical, I can choose from reel or yank. If I want to do magic, I can do an effect, debuff, or support. And if I want to do buff, I can do duration or an aura. So let's say I want to create another reel skill, and these are just, I think, done randomly. Yeah, so reel skill, I can create that with that name, So now I have a new real skill over here. So this one is independent, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I can rename that. So reel 2, let's say I just want this one to be really strong and it costs a lot. And then reel 1, kind of strong, but doesn't cost that much. Or it doesn't cost much at all. So I can do that, and then I can create any skill that I want. So magic 1, magic effect, create. So new magic effect. These aren't implemented at all, really, but they all function pretty similarly. Also, this is a scroll window here. I have another scroll window somewhere too. I think it's in create. Yeah, this is a scroll window, so this should be a scroll window too. Yeah. So if I add more, anything, I just put a scroll window in there. So that's basically the skill system where it's at now. Just kind of a base implementation here of it, and I really wanted that. I really wanted the player to be able to create an ability of a base type, and then decide what they want to do with it. So you're gonna have to, you can make that skill, and you can have it do different things. Yank, because it's not a per second thing. It's just going to be like over a second. It's going to pull the fish in really quick or whatever. Right now it's at 200, but it's got a duration. The duration is 1.1 seconds. So over 1.1 seconds, it's going to reel at this speed or something, But it's not a kind of over time thing. So that's going to have a cost and a cooldown associated with it, and then I can do more interesting things like when you yank, it has a chance to like stun the fish or apply a debuff or whatever. I have whatever I really want to do. I have that set up now to where I can add that to it, and the base functionality is working. I don't think that I added anything else. Crafting's all the same, skills all the same. This button messes up the toggle visual, but oh well. Delete doesn't do anything, and as far as skill points go, you're going to get skill points when you level up, and then if you want to remove your skill point from one of these, right, you can remove from one of these. It's going to cost EXP. That's the plan anyway. And then if you want to delete, you're going to have enough EXP to do that. But that's basically the skill system. I can go into the code a little bit, but it got a little messy. And I'll show you over here what's not destroying on load. What's kind of going on here. So each of these skills are player skill prefab. I didn't know what to do with that because I didn't like, what is a skill in a video game? Is it a game object, or like it's got to have a game object representation of it? So, and in Path of Exile, it's a gem on the ground that you can put into your gear, and in Diablo, it's just a tooltip or an icon on a UI window. So I have that over here, right? I have this representation, and then those have an icon, and I want to be able to drag that icon down here. But like as far as what's a skill in a game, I just decided I'll just do this prefab here. So these are, I just put them on already, and I've assigned a base skill to them, and then these are the ones that we've created. And then you can see that the skill effect, or the skill prefab, is being assigned a correct base. So I have my player skill controller. It houses all the list of all the base types and all the active skills and skill slots for when I get to that. References to different stuff down there. Then I have UI canvas. I have skill builder. So skill builder has a skill builder script. The buttons are contained over here, and I think I'm going to make this a scroll thing too, but I haven't gotten there yet. So what's happening when you toggle here is, I guess I can show you easier. So when you toggle, all it's doing is each skill has a selected skill display prefab, which is just this. And so as you toggle, it's just hiding and showing the skill that you've selected. And the property prefab, so the properties that showed up, it's just another prefab, and the upgrade option prefab is, again, it's just another prefab. And so what's happening in the code is, if I go to skill builder, can't really see these, to change that. Skill builder. So since it has these in the list, active skill display, add skill, skill builder, and skill controller. Skill controller is down here. So skill controller, I think I'm going to have do the bulk of the logic. Skill builder didn't work out to be what I wanted it to, but still useful. I made so many scripts. I have skill system in its own little thing. So those are my prefabs, scriptable objects, scripts for there. Those are just SOs, but three, just a lot of scripts. A lot of scripts just for this system here. But it came together okay. One thing that I ended up doing a lot that I didn't really like was using this setup. I have setups basically in all the scripts that are doing stuff, but in skill controller, it sets up the skill SOs. I just pass those to the base types, the scriptable objects of those skills in case I need them in the future, which I think I will for the use stuff. So just anything that I might need to reference, I pass references to all of those in here. Skill slots, blah blah blah, set up existing skills. So for each skill and all player skills, so when you start you have the 2 that are already added there, and I add those to the list manually. It goes ahead and it sets up those skills. So if I go to the skill setup, this is the player skill prefab. I have a couple different setup options here. The ones that are already there already have a base type to them, so I just call setup and I assign the properties, and I assign the upgrade options here. So I have these base types, and that has all the base stuff to it, and then each skill prefab sets up off the base type. So when I set up a skill or when I add a skill, all I have to do is pass in this base type and then call setup down here. And then skill builder, add a skill. So the add skill is just doing the button, and so it's instantiating the button, and it's instantiating the selected skill display prefab, which is this thing. So it creates new ones of those for each skill that you have active, that you have already made, and then I call setup on those things as well. Active skill display, yeah, and then I have active skill display here. And when I cycle the skills, this is all I'm doing. If it's null, then I just assign it, and then if it's not null, then I set the current one to false, set it to the new one, and then I set the new one to true. Selected skill display, a lot of the cool stuff is in crafting window, but selected skill display, this just updates name, locates points when I click, I think, or no, whatever, but handle upgrade options. So when I call setup for this, right, I pass in a player skill, and then handle properties is I get that base, and then I set up how many upgrade options there are, how many, I guess just the upgrade options, and it does the properties as well. So I set up the properties, and the properties was giving me a hard time for a while because I was calling setup in player skill from like a bunch of different places, and in setup it created a new skill properties list. So in skill properties, I subscribe to the skill attribute on value change event, which occurs when the value of the attribute that this skill property prefab or controller hat is assigned to, or whatever. So those update, and you can see them updating in real time without anything being an update. It's just an event. And the issue was that in player skill I was calling setup from another script and then also in start here. So sometimes the order would be wrong, and then I would end up with a different skill properties list, and the references over here weren't functioning anymore, or weren't updating anyway. Skill attribute, did I do anything cool? No. Crafting window, no. I'll show you, this is the last thing, really, without going into too much detail, but skill builder, create button, because I can't freaking see these. Create skill controller. So this script's doing a lot of heavy lifting, and I had to do some kind of hacky stuff to really, the problem is player skill SO over here, right? I have skill type. This is your base type. I need to rename that actually. Yeah, so these are your base types, right? Physical, magical, and buff. And then each of those has their own. So I wasn't too happy with this implementation, but it's done and it's working, so it is what it is. Each of the base types have subtypes. These are all subtypes, essentially, is what I'm calling them. So, crafting window, I need to no, sorry, where was I? I need to know about all of those for each skill when I create it, right? Because I'm selecting a type and I'm selecting a subtype. So the button only displays if you have selected a type and a subtype and changed the name. Create skill, little create skill function here, which came together really nice there at the end. Choose random skill icon, reset values, on name change selected subtype. So I have getters and setters up here for selected subtype because I'm doing that from different scripts in certain places. Again, this didn't all come together super fluidly, but it did come together. So I have whole methods here for changing the subtype, and I need to know if that subtype is null. In the case where I'm resetting it, I need to do something, and if it's not null, then basic logic there. And same thing down here. Hide subtype prefabs. I call that in there. I'm not destroying those. I'm not destroying those. I don't know why I'm not destroying those, but I decided not to destroy them, so I just assign new values when a new subtype is selected. Oh yeah, because this is in the create skill window, it's not in the options or anything. So populate skill type list. So I'm just populating the list held within this create skill controller. Can create just to check to see if you can create at that point, right? Again, is your skill name, select a type and subtype selected, display skill types, blah blah blah. And okay, this is the one, this was the bigger one that required some problem solving, I guess. So display skill subtypes. When I do that, I need to pass in a base skill type. So if that base skill type is physical, magical, or buff, I do basically the same. This is the same, right? Copy paste here. So I could probably turn that into a method and save myself some code, but I didn't get there yet. So this goes ahead and the skill subtypes prefab. I'll just show you what it's doing, and then that'll be the end. But So when I'm in skill here and I create, right, there's nothing displayed down here. Now there's 2, now there's 3, now there's 2. So instead of creating and destroying these, I just hide them and update the data of those. So that's really all that it's doing down here, and it's just depending on, and that is getting called when I change selected type. So, and how am I doing that? Change selected type. Skill type prefab. Yeah, okay. So they're just buttons. These are all just buttons, so when I click them, it sets the type to the type that they have been assigned. And I have 2 different functions in here for setting up a skill type and setting up a skill subtype. This one, I wasn't too happy with that implementation either. You know, do I have 2 different kinds, or is this okay, or you know, can I just do a switch statement or something? But for the subtype, because there's physical, magical, and buff, I can't just pass in an enum. I have to pass in an object, and then I have to figure out what that object is. Get skill subtype name. Yeah, so there it is, get description. So I pass in the object if subtype is blah blah blah, and this is just working just like this. So I pass in an object of subtype, and then if it is a physical skill, if it's a magical skill, blah blah blah. Magical skill, magical subtype. And everything's basically working now, more or less. It's just, you know, you can't use the skills and you can't put them on your skill bar, and there's no key bindings, and this save delete thing doesn't work. And I also might take that out because I don't know that if you click the button, I guess I'll leave them, but that's basically where I'm at with the skill system. So that's been 2 weekends. Work was pretty busy throughout the week, so I didn't get any time during the week to work on any of it, and it kind of sucks to, like, I was way deep into it last weekend, but then I couldn't, for like a week. I just had to step away and not work on it really. Well, I could have worked on it, but I just didn't. So then I step away for a week, and then to come back yesterday and try to like do some stuff. It was like, oh yeah, where was I at? What was I doing? And what's broken and what needs fixed and all that. But did a lot of fine tuning here, and I'm happy with how it's coming along. Next weekend, once I get the skills, really the skill thing is like the biggest thing here. I do the skill, and then I need a fishing log, and then after that I have no excuses not to figure out how to save all this data, which is the more I just keep adding stuff, and it's like, oh crap, like I'm making the whole save process is going to be way harder. Like I definitely should have figured out how to save stuff before I started implementing all these systems, but implementing these systems was a lot more fun. Frustrating but fun, because I did them in like a worse way, right? Like the skill builder has so many individual parts that need to work together, and I wasn't testing. I couldn't test anything because each part was depending on another part, and it was like I just coded for like a whole day without testing anything. And then finally, when I got to click play and those things started to come together, it was like, 12 hours later. So that was interesting. I should have done it in a different way. I should have planned a lot better, but I didn't. So anyway, I think that's it. I could go into a lot more detail with how all this stuff works, but I did so much here, I don't even really remember. I would probably struggle to explain it. Okay, bye.